We visited some beautiful municipal rose gardens in the past, and right now those gardens are being pruned since we're into the middle of March. In our own garden here in Stillwater, we have Simplicity Hedge roses planted. Now the pruning method on these is a little bit different than the hybrid teas or the floribundas that give you such a singular or beautiful floral display in some of the parks. But these have their own merit in that they give you a profusion of blossoms throughout the season and can fill in and make a nice hedge. But for that reason, the pruning is a little bit different. Now to start off with, of course, as with any rose bush, you want to make sure when you're pruning that you prune away any growth that might have come up from below the graft line. Now I've removed those already from this shrub that's already been pruned. With roses, you want to encourage strong shoots coming from the basal part of the plant. Now this is growth that occurred last summer. It's still light green in color. It's what we call current season's growth. Over here is a 1-year-old shoot. Both of these will produce flowers this next summer and be nice and vigorous, but we always want to be encouraging or pruning to encourage new basal growth like this. Now down here is some weak twiggy growth that's not going to produce much of a floral display. Now on the shrub roses or hedge roses, sometimes the advertisements tell us that they never need pruning. And you could probably get by for 2 or 3 years with sort of a live and let live attitude on the hedge type rose, not prune them and still get some flowers. But eventually the blooms would get smaller and smaller. And so to prune those, the first thing you want to do, of course, is remove any dead or damaged wood, any wood that has any signs of disease. Also check for any wood that has winter damage. We've had quite a bit on these this winter. Now with the hedge type roses, you want to make sure that you leave enough growth so that they can still have a nice shrub type form and give you plenty of blooms through the summertime. It's nice to have a little bit of open growth habit on them. And if you have any really old stems on there that are 2 or 3 years old, you can remove those. And back here, I have one that has been pruned back. It was pruned back last winter. And it's just a bit of a stub now. It really didn't come out like we thought it would with a strong basal shoot. So I'll remove that. Now I've made some fairly major pruning cuts. It'll be time to do some clipping back. Of course you want, throughout the summer on shrub roses, if you want continued bloom and some very good blooming throughout the summer, it's a good idea to do deadheading or remove any flowers. Some shrub roses are grown for their rose hips. And if you're concerned about them going dormant in the fall, and not having as much winter kill as we've had here, you might want to let them go ahead and produce rose hips, not do any deadheading in the fall, and they'll go dormant a little bit more quickly. As you can see, I've removed a lot of little twiggy growth off of these hedge roses, but we have a lot of buds left over that are going to give us quite a few blooms. Now on a hybrid tea type rose, of course you prune much more severely than this because you want just a few select nice big blooms. But on a hedge rose, you want a profusion of blooms over the top. But you do want to prune enough that you'll have fairly good sized blossoms. I just have one more cut to make back here. Take off one last blossom. One thing I want to mention is that when you make a pruning cut, make sure on a rose that it is a sloping cut and that it is just above a bud. If you make it slope, it will shed water easily. Now on a shrub rose, it's not quite so critical, but on a hybrid tea rose, for instance, if you're making a pruning cut, you want to make sure that you cut it back to an outward facing bud. I have one right here. And that will give you a more open center. As I mentioned on the hedgerows, it's not really quite that critical because you want a fairly shrubby form. This should give us a nice show of blooms this summer and keep it in pretty good shape as well.